Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday already. Crazy how these weeks have been going by. Today, we're going to kind of take a step back in terms of chronological history, meaning we're going to go back in time and cover an event that we didn't really get to in the beginning of the year, as I would normally have liked to. When we go through world religions, usually there's a really long section where we go through what are called the three monotheistic religions. And that basically means they have one God. And the three major monotheistic faiths are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Today, we're going to talk about Christianity's role in Rome because it really was significant. And not only that, depending on the time period, it really did change how Christians were reacted to, and in the end, how it ended up becoming the dominant religion of the whole empire. Which, if we look at it, gotta make sure I pick the right picture. Okay. All right, here we go. So we look at it, we kind of already know what's known as the pantheon or the selection of gods and goddesses for the ancient Romans, right? So you can see a lot of them line up perfectly with the Greek gods and goddesses. Some have the same name, like Apollo. Some have different names, and some I think are kind of combinations of others. For example, I think Mercury, even though it sounds an awful lot like Hermes, I do feel like there might be some missing pieces to him compared to the other version, but you get my point, right? The Romans are taking the Greek gods and goddesses, they change their names, and they're using them for themselves. This is the dominant, maybe is not the best word, but it's the most practiced, the official state religion of the Roman Empire. Now, eventually, what's going to end up happening is when we get to this time around 40 CE, so remember, we're just starting to count up in years, we see a change. And that change is going to be this faith becoming popular all over the Middle East. This is a picture of what's known as the Last Supper. And if you know the story, this is when Jesus was supposed to be killed soon, and he had one final meal with the people who followed him in the hope that they would continue to spread his faith. Now, the Jewish faith did not spread purposefully. The Christian faith did. And what Jesus wanted his followers to do was to go and try to convert or to get as many people as his followers could to switch to his belief system. And this is a new idea. And we're going to start out our reading today going through this and how the ancient Romans reacted to Christianity spreading inside the empire, because all of this is going to be happening inside of Rome. Well, because Rome is like basically the known world, right? Of course, it's going to take up most of the Roman Empire. I want to make sure if we're talking about this here, I want to make sure that I actually showed you it. If I didn't, I'm sorry, but this is the picture. This is actually a different one than the one Da Vinci painted, but it's of the same idea. Okay, so looking over here, I'm just going to present my screen. I have our exit ticket posted up already here, and we're going to have 4 questions. They're going to be from the reading. We're going to try and do the reading together here. I just want to give it a shot, see how I like it. And if we ever have to do distance learning again, maybe it'll be something I try. I don't know. But we're going to do the reading together. And I've already got the textbook pulled up. Okay. So what I'm going to ask that you do is pause this video and get it into a point where you can split screen. Whoops. Your exit ticket, and you can either get your reading out or it'll be presented on the screen, so we can just do that together. All I'm asking is that you try to get this done while we go through the video, and then hopefully you'll have nothing left to do for the rest of the day for social studies, okay? All right, so I am gonna pan on over. I've already got the textbook loaded, at least I thought I did, good. Okay, so today's subject is gonna be Rome and Christianity, okay? So we are going to get started reading. If there's anything I think I need to add, I will do so. Otherwise, we are going from 118 to 122 today. All right, Rome and Christianity, new religion. The Roman Empire must have been an interesting place to live. Its population came from a wide range of backgrounds and spoke many different languages. They practiced different religions and believed in all kinds of gods and goddesses. In addition, between 27 BCE, remember that's before, so that's when we're still counting down to zero, and 180 CE, which is when we're counting upwards, the Pax Romana made it possible for people to travel around the empire peacefully and easily. I believe this was not the city of ancient Rome. If it was, it doesn't look like there's as many statues as I would have guessed, especially considering there's carriages that people are carrying people around in. That's usually not something that would have been done in Rome, but I could be wrong. So this would have been a Roman style city, probably in Egypt. This could have even been Alexandria, honestly. But as you can see, it's kind of hard to tell them apart because they're taking the same kind of architecture and bringing it all over the world. Like, for example, these types of columns that the Romans used, they took that from Greek, right? You can definitely tell those are Corinthian columns. In the marketplaces of one of the cities in the empire, such as Antioch or Damascus, those are both in the Middle East, one might find goods from faraway places, see Roman soldiers, and meet people from all over. Not only traders and merchants could be found in the marketplace, but also teachers and philosophers, would-be healers and miracle workers and practices of new religions. So you would go into these marketplaces and there would be people who would be trying to get you to believe in their belief system and their religion. I'm going to be honest, I've seen this in today's world, right? If you go into some public areas, there might be somebody who is trying to not necessarily convince you, but they are sharing their belief systems. I've seen people stand up on tables and benches and people actually will listen to them because they're sharing their beliefs in whether it's God or it could be other things. It could be political views too. But this is not something that's uncommon. And this would have happened very, very frequently in Rome, especially in places outside the main city itself. In the year of about 40 CE, people in the larger cities of the empire began to hear stories about a new religion in which the followers believed a man called Jesus Christ. They heard that he had been a Jew from Palestine, which is like Israel today. His followers said that he had died and been raised to life again. He was going to come back to earth and bring the kingdom of God. His followers believed all this so strongly that many of them had changed their lives completely. A few of his followers, including a man named Paul, traveled around the empire trying to convince people to believe in Christ. Now, it's interesting, Paul will end up going all the way into Rome to be the first Christian preacher in the city of Rome. He also goes in Jerusalem, which was where the Jewish faith originated, and he tried to preach inside the city of Jerusalem, which a lot of people thought was crazy, but he really was somebody who it had such a profound impact on the spreading of Christianity that there might even be a state in the United States called Minnesota that has their capital city named after him, St. Paul. Really had a great, profound impact on the world and the spreading of the religion. Most Romans ignored the new religion. Oh, that looks like an exit ticket question. In the cities of the empire especially, there was always someone with a new religion, a new report of a miracle, or a prophecy about the future. Make sure that, okay, I want to make sure I'm still presenting. These Christians or followers of Christ were just one tiny part of a large, complicated empire, but others paid more attention to these Christians, and that attention was not always favorable. Jesus had lived in Palestine and had preached first to the Jewish community. His first followers continued to spread his teaching among the Jews of the Middle East. Very quickly, however, there were disagreements within the Jewish community about these new Christian ideas. Some of these disagreements caused conflict. Gradually, Judaism, the Jewish faith, and Christianity became two very different religions with very different beliefs. Christians continued to preach around the empire and start new communities. The Jewish communities did not want to do that. They were more content in keeping the groups that they had and then therefore not spreading to the level of the Christians. That's why you see the Christians having such a large impact later on once they start to accept the religion more in the Roman Empire. Sometimes there were problems between Christians and people who had an interest in preserving other religions. We're going back to Paul again. The early Christian preacher Paul was once arrested in the city of Ephesus. That definitely sounds Greek. Because silversmiths who made statues of a Greek goddess, Athena, felt that he was hurting their business. In other places, Christians were beaten or arrested because their attempts at preaching started arguments in public. There's an official religion already, right? It's illegal to be teaching at this time, to be teaching and preaching any religion that is not considered the official state religion. So it would cause conflict. In fact, it could cause people to be killed too. Christians were beaten or arrested because their attempts at preaching started arguments in public. Christians are also blamed for other problems that developed. Because Christians were a new group that people didn't know much about, they were easy to blame. One of the things that they did was, in order to make Christians appear scary and that they were actually going to like pervert the ideas of Romans, was that this idea of the Eucharist and the Last Supper. Now, if anybody is a Catholic or even some other Christian faiths, it's a symbolic dinner where you have a piece of bread and then sometimes followed by wine, and it is supposed to be called the body and blood of Christ. Now, when it was created, it was the idea that you were receiving that spirit so you could go out and spread the faith. Well, the Romans, not understanding it and not wanting to understand it, said that that was proof of Christians being cannibals. Whoa, that is not what the faith says. And I think in a lot of cases, the Romans knew that, but it sounded better when they were trying to push their idea that people should be afraid of Christians. This is not something uncommon even in today's world when there are groups of people being targeted. During the 100s and 200s CE, the Roman Empire faced serious troubles. The empire had grown so large that it took a long time for communications to travel between Rome and its other cities. The army and governors, meaning Roman officials that are in different cities, like there was one of Judea called Pontius Pilate, he was a Roman. The army and governors of provinces were often cruel or corrupt. Worse, people outside the empire, especially in Europe, began to try to conquer parts of it. The Romans knew that their empire would be strong and united if people were loyal. To the Romans, loyalty meant several things. It meant paying taxes to Rome and taking part in rituals and ceremonies that were part of the Roman process of government. Many of these rituals and ceremonies were religious and required making offerings to the gods, who were believed to protect Rome. The Romans had many gods and goddesses. Some emperors, such as Julius Caesar and Augustus, even though Julius Caesar wasn't an emperor, right? Dictator for life, but same powers, had even been declared gods after they died. The Romans were also clear about what happened to people who were not loyal. They held public executions to make their point. People who were not loyal risked horrible deaths. As the number of Christians grew, they were often seen as troublemakers. But were they actually disloyal to Rome? Christians claimed that they were loyal to Rome. They pointed to one of Jesus' teachings: render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, means give Caesar the things that are his. Caesar is the emperor, period. And unto God the things that are God's. For Christians, that meant this was clear proof that there was no conflict between Christian faith and Roman citizenship. In other words, they were two completely different things, but they still were going to be loyal to the emperor. A Christian could pay taxes that the emperors required and remain loyal to the Roman government while worshiping and obeying God. But the Romans weren't so sure. They began requiring Christians to make offerings to Roman gods and goddesses to prove that they were good citizens and to ensure that the traditional gods and goddesses continued to protect Rome. Christians refused to do this because they felt the Roman gods and goddesses were false, or at least they just did not believe in that particular faith. That doesn't mean that they necessarily thought it was false, but it wasn't what they believed in. They only offered worship to their own God. When they refused to obey the Romans, they were arrested and sometimes executed. Some were thrown to wild beasts and torn apart and eaten. Others were forced to participate in gladiator battles. This is a picture of such a scene right here, where, as you can see, they put a symbolic cross to show that these are Christians because Jesus was crucified, and they're down in the pit with wild beasts running around trying to tear them apart. Not a good time. It's so interesting because when Rome first starts out, it really is a very tolerant place. It is. And once there becomes a particular set of systems that is, I think, dominant throughout the whole Mediterranean Sea, the Romans start becoming less tolerant. And I think the simple point is that they no longer have to try to compete to expand anymore. And because of that, they're not using that same tolerance that they did in the beginning that incorporated so many people into the Roman Republic and Empire. It's kind of weird how that changed. That was their recipe for success, and now they're going against that. Okay, this is as far as we were going to read today. I'm sorry about the sun in the background, but we are all done with the exit ticket questions that we would need to get done. I know this was a longer video, but I'm hoping since you don't actually have to do any reading yourself this time, that's kind of worth it in the end. Let me know how you feel. But we're already at the end of the week. There's not a weekly assessment this week, okay? 2 days of school, it ain't worth it. So everything that we do this week, we're just going to push that off into next week's. Now, that is going to be the last one that we have for both the trimester and for distance learning, but I feel like we could almost consider it like a final, right? So it is okay that there's a couple more questions. All right. Well, I don't think I have anything else for you today. So can't believe I'm saying this already, but have a great weekend, everybody. Make good choices, and we'll see you back for normal, sort of, live class on Monday, which I'm super excited about. All right. Well, take care of yourselves.